Good morning. I am with Miss Perrin Storch. She is lieutenant in the United States Navy. She is an EWAC. So she is an electronic warfare aircraft commander. So basically that means she's a badass and she's a pilot. Tell us about your platform, what you fly.
I fly the EP-3, which is a surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft. It's kind of old. It was first flown in like the 1960s, first brought online.
And it breaks all the time. And it's great, but...
She's one of the best planes out there, though. Even though she's so old and she breaks a lot, she's one of the most hardy aircraft. I love her a lot. I wouldn't rather fly any other plane. Which
is crazy. So we actually met like a year and a half ago in Bahrain. We went on our first deployment together, and we were both trainees. Yep. We both had no idea what we were doing.
No idea.
And now she's a full pilot, and I'm a second class, which is pretty awesome to like watch your crew grow as you go through deployments. We've been on 3 deployments now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Amazing.
Best IS in the world.
Yeah. I know this is like so trite to ask, but why Navy? Why not the Air Force to be a pilot?
I was raised in a Navy family, so my dad was in the Navy for 31 years, and I always kind of grew up thinking that the Navy's just better than the Air Force because of him. That was kind of the joke around the household.
Yeah.
And my brother had been really interested in flying his whole life, and he went through ROTC when he went to college to be a pilot. And I was always kind of interested in flying. I never thought about doing it as a job. I was more interested in what I was studying in school at the time. But there was just something about the military that was like a challenge, and one day I woke up and I thought that I couldn't go my entire life without knowing if I could do it.
That's good.
So I just decided to take a leap and see if I could do it.
And so that kind of like transitions like why you chose to be a pilot.
Yeah.
Because of your family.
Yeah. I took a couple flight lessons after I applied to do it, but the reason I chose specifically that one after I found out that I was like medically qualified for it, which is a hurdle in itself.
Yeah, it sounds rough.
Yeah. My dad always came home from work and he was like, this is the best job I could have ever had. If I could live my life over again, I would do exactly this. And I thought that if it was something like my dad would say something about that, about a job, that it must be a good job. So
yeah.
I thought I might try it. And it's always seemed like a really good challenge, something really rewarding, really fun. So I thought it'd be a good way to spend 10 years of my life.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask too. Like, was it intimidating knowing that you were signing up for 10 years of this thing that you didn't really know anything about?
Yeah, it was. But I think a lot of the other job options that I was looking at the time would have required the same commitment. Like if you want to go be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a pilot, stuff like that takes a large chunk of time. So no matter what you choose to do, you're going to dedicate some sort of time to it. Whether or not, like in the military, you're committing, like you sign a contract, you're committing to do it, which is a little bit more intimidating than just being like, I think I'll go to college and then I'll go to law school and then I'll have to find a job. But those things require like commitments in other ways that you don't necessarily see up front.
I've never thought of that.
Yeah, like
That's
anything
good.
You do will be some sort of commitment. So.
Yeah. So you went to school, you have a degree in what, chemistry?
Biochemistry.
Biochemistry. And you were a chemist before. Is that how you say that?
Chemist.
A chemist. Yeah, a chemist. We make up words here.
Chemist.
So you made a huge career switch.
Yeah.
That's why. Did you just wake up one day and you're like, hey, like I want to try something new?
Well, when I worked as a chemist, I was working for a military laboratory for the Navy under a really cool guy named Dr. Benjamin Harvey. He's very, very smart. And I loved working with him and what we did, but he got a lot of funding to make fuels and plastics and stuff out of biorenewable sources. So he was using like tree bark and weird sorts of like natural oils to make jet fuel, and he ended up succeeding in it. It was very cool, and I was working there and I was like, man, this is the best job ever. Even the days when I just got to like go in and clean the glassware was really fun for me, and I loved doing dishes. But I was like, it was about that time when I was thinking the military's this huge challenge, like could I be up for that? And then I'm making jet fuel, and the hometown I was from, there were jets flying around all the time, and I was like, I wonder if I could do that too.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like couldn't say no to that.
Gee, so you're like essentially you just collided the two like industries. And I know you mentioned you don't know. I feel like when you're in the military, people ask you, are you doing 20 years? Like that is such a loaded question. Because I feel like people who end up doing 20, they never expect to do 20. They're just like, all right, I guess I'll do another 5, or you know. Like,
I feel like that's how it comes too. It's just like I'll do a couple more years. I like what I'm doing. I'll do a couple, and then before you know it, you're like at 20, and then you're like.
And the people that are in for like 25, 30 years, like your dad, I'm like, I don't know how you do it.
I don't know. He's still working to this day. He's so energetic.
It's incredible.
I don't know what he's doing.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how he does that. I'm tired.
So you have what, 6 years left?
It's like 5 years left.
5 years left.
Contract.
So I kind of wanted to get into like, and be completely candid here, but what is it like to be a female in a male-dominant career as a pilot? Please feel free, speak freely, because like I want people to like actually hear the sides that need to be heard in the military. You know, like I feel like a lot of times people sugarcoat things, and that's just not reality. Like it is challenging sometimes being a female, and you know there's its own battles for sure. So I just want to hear your side, your perspective, what you've run into.
Okay. I don't really think that I've ever experienced anything too negative in terms of being a female. I've had a couple of flight instructors early on that didn't like me, and I could never figure out why. I wouldn't want to blame it on like sexism, but I've had people that just don't like interacting with me throughout my time in the military, and it's hard to pinpoint. I think it's just a personality difference sometimes between like men and women and how we work that can make it a challenge, but I've never had anybody like outright tell me that I can't do something or like try to get me away from doing something just because I'm a female, which I think is a huge blessing, because I heard stories growing up all the time. My mom was in a male-dominated field. She was an architect, and people were always telling her, just like drop out of school. You don't need to be here. When she started working, people wouldn't want to hire her because she was a woman. So I have never experienced anything like that, which I think says a lot about how much our society has progressed. But I do think like on a personal level, it can be difficult to interact with people because boys are just like boys club, you know. So you walk into work and it's just like guys that are chilling, or you'll come into work and people are like, oh, I had so-and-so over for a beer. Like I don't go over to guys' houses for a beer after work. Yeah. It wouldn't, like, it would be weird. And I can't hang out with guys that are married and like bro out with them because they're married. I would feel weird about that. If it was like a group setting, that's fine. But at work, maybe don't know you so well all the time, or don't know how to interpret like your behavior sometimes.
Interesting.
So I'll have people that think I'm like really outgoing, really loud, like boisterous, and there's other people who are like, oh, Perrin doesn't talk at all. But it's just like hard to get to know people.
You have to
in that
like
setting.
judge your audience, and you would hate to like, I guess, step on anyone's toes. And I don't know, it is true when a female walks into a room full of males, like the energy does shift. So that's challenging. And you mentioned a story the other day of some guy, like some civilian, was just floored that you were a pilot.
Oh, yeah. I've had that happen a couple times, and I don't really know how to take it, so I just choose to take it like in a nice way.
What do they say?
But, well, one time was when we were in Bahrain, and there was like a Navy SEAL like commander or something, and he saw my wings when I was at like that stupid mini necks that they had on base there, and he was like, oh, what did he say? Something like, oh, you're a female pilot. Wow, there's not many of those. Was that hard or something? And I was like, there's a lot of female pilots around now, my dude.
Let me lay it down for you real quick.
This is not new now. And then, like, was it hard? I thought that was an interesting question. Like, yeah, it's hard for anybody to go through this, but like, should it be hard for me specifically as a female?
Yeah,
like, is that
how
what
do you
you're
take
asking?
that?
So I just kind of took it as like, wow, you're in a job that like women usually don't choose to do. Is that hard? Congratulations. I took it like that kind of way instead of being like, is it hard for me as a woman? Is that what you're asking? But I never know what he meant by that. I get that a lot from people, and I went to like go fill up a propane tank or something before we came out here, and I met a guy, and he was like, oh, are you off work today? Or you don't have to work? Like, your husband's at work? And I was like, no, my squadron has the day off before we deploy tomorrow. And he was like, what do you do? And I told him I'm a pilot, and he was absolutely floored. So that was not...
That's so crazy. I'm sure you get like, and too, you get like the reactions of like, that's amazing.
I try to take them.
You're the only pilot I've worked with that's female on each deployment.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it is a little more rare, but like you said, I think the military has come a long way in accepting, like, now they have women that are going out for SWIC and SEAL. Yeah. I don't think any of them have passed yet, but still, it's just pretty interesting how, like, things are changing, and evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your favorite part of the job and your least favorite part of the job?
Oh, I've never thought about this. I think my favorite part of the job in terms of, do you mean like when I'm actually in the plane flying, or do you mean just like in general?
Let's just say all of it.
Oh boy.
Like the whole thing about being a pilot.
I love being at home and doing like our bounce flights when they're giving you like a bunch of malfunctions at once and you're just trying to handle all of them.
That sounds really intense.
I just like the dynamics of it and like working with the rest of the crew to figure out a way to get through the problem and handle things the right way. I really like doing that. I think my favorite part about it though is when somebody who doesn't know a lot about planes asks me a question about the P3 because I love it so much and I just like sharing that with other people.
This girl, she would spend hours with maintenance after work and just like change engines and like do all the maintainer things just because she like wants to know the plane inside and out. And I don't know anyone else like who does that.
Oh.
Just on their free, she'll fly for like 10 hours and then hang out with maintainers. So you are not a normal lieutenant.
No, thank you.
But anyway, keep going with your favorite thing.
Well,
Malfunctions.
yeah, I like doing that. I don't know, I just love the plane so much because like whatever happens, she'll keep flying. So whatever malfunction you have, you can at least like get somewhere. You just have to figure out what you have to do to like mitigate what you've lost and keep moving forward with it. So I really like that aspect of her. Like, she's an amazing plane. I love her so much.
All right, well, what's your least favorite?
I feel like it's kind of cliche, and every female that's ever been in the P3 is going to agree with me. I'm peeing.
Yes! I went on one flight, and this plane does not have a bathroom. It's like, what is it, like a bucket?
Yeah, we call it an R2-D2. It's like a little, imagine like a fire hydrant with like a hole in the top.
Yeah, so you can't, like, we don't have a hose attached that we can just shoot in there.
Yeah, I have no hose.
So I peed on myself twice during that flight. Yeah, it was a good time.
It's rough. It's rough. When I first started flying the P3, I didn't know that, and I was scheduled to fly with a male flight instructor the first time I flew her, and I'd heard good things about him, wasn't worried about him at all. And then this female lieutenant runs up to me. I'm like just out of flight school, still a little bit scared of lieutenants.
Yeah.
She runs up to me and she's like, Perrin, and I was like, what did I do?
Yeah.
And she was like, has anybody talked to you about peeing on the plane yet? And I was like, what? No.
What? Excuse you?
And our training flights are 5 hours long, which isn't very long compared to the mission flights that we do. But it's a long time coming from like beginning flight school when you fly for like 45 minutes to an hour and a half max. It's a long flight, so
Also,
you can't not
pee.
and you can't not drink water. That's not good for you either. So she gave me like the lowdown of what to do to pee on the plane, and I was like, what a strange conversation to have as my first interaction with
a
you.
stranger.
Yeah, but I was very glad that she said that to me and that she just had no qualms about it. And now, like, as a P3 pilot myself, if I had a female that came in and was fine with us the first time, that would probably be my first conversation.
Let's talk about peeing.
Yeah. I'd be like, are you going to be all right for the next 10 hours? Let's chat. So I think that's probably my least favorite part. I did hear a horror story about, I don't know if it was a pilot or an NFO, but she went to the bathroom and they hit turbulence, and she was like, there's like two ways you can do it. You can get the things off Amazon, like the Shewees, or you can pee into like a Solo cup.
Yeah.
I'm in the Solo cup part. And she was too, but they hit turbulence and it like spilled all over her, and they gave her the call sign Puddles.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I would be so mad if that happened to me.
That's a pretty
Puddles.
bad call sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't help it.
You
I
can't.
don't know.
You cannot. You don't have one, do you? Or do you have a call
sign?
Yeah.
My old crew called me Scrumbles a lot.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
They thought that I was like spicy and like
You're
sassy.
rambunctious. For sure. That's a really good one. What advice would you give for anyone who's looking into being a pilot? Like, what would be your biggest takeaway, like your biggest piece of advice for going into the training and signing 10 years of their life away? Like, I know it's a heavy one.
Fly multi-engine.
Fly multi-engine.
Multi-engine just means that the plane has like more than one on it.
More than one
When you
engine.
fly, I feel like when you fly a plane with one engine, if you lose the engine,
You're done.
what are you gonna do?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, people practice for that, and they teach us that in primary flight school because that's the first plane that you would fly, and they teach you like how to use your airspeed and your altitude to set you up in a good way to find like a safe place to essentially like crash land the plane. But we don't have to worry about that. Like, what are the chances you're gonna lose all 4?
Like fighters are one engine, right?
The F-18s have 2,
Okay.
I believe. But if they lose one, they don't have the same issues that we do if you lose one, because theirs are right next to each other, where ours are like out on the wings.
Could you lose like 2? Because the EP3 has 4 turboprops.
Beautiful turboprops.
Yeah, so they're little. So if you lose like 2 on one side, can you still fly her?
Yeah.
Stop.
We practice that a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I would feel like it just go.
Oh, she does. You have to throw in, so that the engines that are, let's say you lost the engines on your left side, the engines on the right side are operating, so they want to like turn you this way. So the plane's constantly trying to move that way. You have to throw in a bunch of rudder, which is the control surface on the tail that goes like this. And you end up like, for me, I'm short, so for like I have to have the seat all the way up and the rudder pedals like all the way back at me. And then we have the thing called trim on the plane, which is another little tab that sits on the rudder. And it helps you like decrease the amount of inputs that you have to hold so that the plane can fly straight and level by itself. It's like autopilot, but you do it, and you do it constantly. You're always trimming.
Oh my gosh.
When you lose 2 engines on one side, you have to throw in a bunch of rudder trim to hold the rudder all the way in. Yeah. And even then, you have to like press on it a little bit. And when we practice it, we end up doing like a couple laps. You'll hold it for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes like that while you're getting ready to land. Mm-hmm. And my leg just like starts shaking. It's like doing leg day.
I'm sure. Oh my God.
I try not to do leg day before like a big check ride or something, because I don't want to be sore and not be able to hold it.
Yeah, that would be really crazy. Yeah. I know, like, you can look it up, it's on the internet, but in 2001, our plane actually went down in China, on Hainan Island, and everyone survived, but yeah, China got a piece of our intel, that's for sure. Yeah, so it's crazy. Like, do you ever think about, I know you shouldn't probably think about it, but very well can happen. You guys can go down. Like, does that ever scare you? Because we're a offensive plane. Like, we don't have anything to protect us. So if we were to go down.
I do think about it a lot, but it's part of the job to be like prepared for those situations. It doesn't scare me. I guess maybe like the part that would scare me is after we land somewhere, or if we had ditch in the water, like getting picked up by somebody. Yeah, that would be
pirates.
Yeah, or like another country. I think that would be scary. They've trained us on how to deal with that, so I would just revert back to that.
SEER school.
Yep, go back to good old SEER school. But the actual like emergency itself doesn't really scare me, and the probability of those things happening is so low that I think about it just so that I'm prepared for it and what I would do. Right. But thankfully I've never had anything that dramatic happen.
Yeah, thank God. Seriously, knock on wood, because like when I'm supporting, so my job as an intel specialist, like we sit on the ground, and while they're flying, we are supporting them. So we're just making sure that they're okay, that, you know, they, like every hour they're checking in with us. And whatever you guys collect, like, we get to create a post-mission product, which is really cool. So it's crazy to think that, like, there's all these small pieces working together to create this intel, which then gets, like, shot out, disseminated into the world. Yeah. And, like, that's kind of how we keep eyes on, you know, our adversary. And, you know, they're doing the same thing. Everyone's watching everybody, but it's cool that you
But we do it the best.
Yeah, right? It's cool that you get to, like, literally fly that plane. Like, you get to control that mission, and that's cool.
It's definitely been cool the past couple of flights out here with, like, I've got one of my best friends out here with me. She's the other half of the leadership team, Lauren Glass. And I love when we get to work together and, like, make decisions about where we're going to put the plane to get the best collect, or what we're going to do to see a different reaction. It's just cool to be, like, well, that's our decision this time.
It is.
Like, we're the ones out here representing our country doing this stuff. That's badass. I love that.
Noble. Seriously, it's amazing. And there are some really terrible days in the military, but the fact that, like, we get to have these stories and, like, these deployments to, like, tell people about, that's cool.
Tell them, like, parts of it at least.
Yeah. Obviously not everything.
My mom will call me and she was like, "How was work today? What'd you do?" And I'd be like, "Well, I flew, but I can't really tell you about it."
I pushed some buttons.
A couple days later, if something like comes out in the news that's related to what we did, I'll send her like a link to it. But I feel like the time has passed for her to be interested in it. So she's like, "Oh, cool."
Right.
Like, you were so interested the other day.
Yeah.
I just can't tell you until it comes out, like, in the news.
No, that's the hard part. It's hard. It's not hard, like, not talking about it, but you just get so excited.
Yeah.
And I think, like, that's why the crew is so tight on deck, because you guys can just sit in the skiff all day and just, like, talk about what we want to do and, like, what we want to accomplish. And
It's because we have no other friends.
shh, don't need to know that.
I
Okay,
would
yeah,
give-
we kind of rabbit holed, but
I got distracted by the P3 once again. Once again. She's so beautiful. You should put like a picture of her.
I'm going to. Yeah, I figured I'd, like, drop one in there for them to see. But, okay, best advice, like, throw a few nuggets out there for people looking into being a pilot.
Okay. This one I definitely need to take my own advice on, but I think if there's something that you're interested in doing that you're scared of doing, I think that you should do it. Especially in jobs like this. I remember when I started, I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never be ready to fly a plane 1,000 miles over open water. I'll never be comfortable with that. But I think the military prepares you well to do it, and then they won't obviously let you do it if you're not prepared. So if you're interested in it at all, I would say give yourself the benefit of the doubt and
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, I can't do that because I'm not, like, bold enough to do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
That's what I preach all the time. Like, people regret the things that they didn't do in their life. And, like, the military was one thing. I feel like if I had never tried to do it, I would have regretted it.
Yeah. And that's what I thought, too. The couple days, like, before I went in to talk to the recruiter, I was like, can I go the rest of my life without knowing if I could do that, too?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's heavy. That's heavy to carry. Was there any point in training when you were just like, this is too much, I can't? And you, like, almost dropped out? Or,
Yeah.
like, what keeps you in training? What keeps you going?
I don't know.
You have to have drive, that's for sure. I see, like, the amount of hours that you have to put in, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, something that was driving me for a long time was I really wanted to be an astronaut. So I was like, if I can't even be a pilot, then it's like, no way. I'm going to be an astronaut.
I can't fly on Earth. How am I going to fly out of Earth?
So that kept me going for a while, and I think that was really good motivation. I feel like if you pick something that's really difficult and almost out of your reach, then wherever you go from there, even if you don't make that one, you're still setting yourself up well if you're, like, pushing yourself for the hardest thing. So that kept me going for a long time. As I get older, though, I don't really know if that's how I want to spend my life. You know, like, I kind of want to have a family and kids, and then if you go to space after that could be the end.
Yeah,
so
that's scary.
I think I'll always do something with, like, aviation or science or, like, exploring the world beyond us, but I don't know if I'll ever want to be the one to go do it anymore.
Yeah.
Things that were hard in terms of, like, learning how to fly the P3 specifically would probably be some of the emergency landings that we do. And we start flying the P3 in Jacksonville over in Florida. Our first couple flights with a different squadron, we'll do, like, maybe 10 flights there and, like, 2 night flights. And then we come out to Whidbey, and then we start flying with VQ. But before you get to VQ, you don't ever practice these 2 types of emergency landings. You'll practice landing with, like, 1 engine out simulated. We don't actually turn the engine off. You just pull it so it, like, the amount of power it's producing is negating the drag that it's producing. So it's like, it's kind of like it's not there. But you can always get it back if you do need it. And then you practice with, like, just 1 out there. And then when you come to VQ, they're like, oh, but what if you lost 2 engines? Let's practice that.
Gosh.
Or, like, what if you can't land? We normally land with flaps out, which helps you slow to slower speeds. But if you don't have flaps, you have to land. And it's a different, like, sight picture. The way you fly it is different, too, because you're at a different, like, angle towards the ground. And I found them very challenging. I remember the first sim I did when I was, like, a baby 3P. It was before we left for Bahrain. And they have you do both of them. And I've been studying it for, like, weeks. And I sat in the sim to do both of them, and it was just absolute garbage. And it was really, really hard. And I was like, I'm never going to figure this out. Like, both of these are horrible. They're just terrible. So that was hard. I never thought about quitting because of that, but it was definitely a moment where I was like, what if I can't do this? Like, what if I can't figure this out? They're not going to let me fly this plane if I can't land it when it's broken. So that was rough. But thankfully, things got better because we have good instructors, and they train you really well. And now no-flap landings are my favorite.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're really fun.
It's probably because it challenged you.
Yeah.
And you rose. That's good. Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, it's true. You said, like, if you aren't good enough, like, they're gonna cut you. And that's intimidating.
Which, yeah, it's hard to think about that, but I would rather have that happen than, like, be in a position like this and not be able to do what you need to do.
100%.
Especially when you have other people on the plane.
Yeah.
You know? I don't want to put, like, their lives at risk just because somebody let me go through this pipeline when I really shouldn't have been here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's sad if you get cut, but it should be kind of encouraging because.
Yeah, it actually is. Because you have everyone's lives in your hands.
Okay.
Like, I mean, really, you have such powerful, like, knowledge to where, yeah, you are like the light, the guiding light in an emergency for sure, and that's cool. What is the most impactful piece of advice anyone's ever given you? Just in life, not even necessarily like military, but life.
Oh, I came across a really interesting one. Maybe it was because I was so focused on like being a good EWAC at the time, but 3 people said it like over the course of a couple days to me, and it was just one of those things where you're like, what is the world trying to tell me right
Yeah.
now? You know? And it came down to like, and I think it's good advice for the real world too. Maybe I'm just like a cautious person, but it boiled down to like the safest option is usually the best, and that option might come from like the least expected person. So it's like a combination of listening to everybody's opinions, because I'm not going to be able to think of everything, but I don't need to. I've got a tube full of like 23 other people that have really great ideas too and should be listened to.
Yeah.
And then like picking the safest option when we're out there doing our jobs can never be the wrong thing, you know?
That's true.
So I like that.
It's funny how I asked you about like the best advice about life, and you're like EP3. Okay, because it is like.
I'll have to think about.
But
life.
you like okay. So besides pilot and flying and Navy and all that, give me like a hobby that you're super passionate about too.
I really like riding my motorcycle.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. This
You know
girl
me too well.
out of control. What kind of motorcycle?
I have a Gixxer 600 and a Yamaha R3. She's my little baby.
Gosh.
Love her so much. I thought about selling the R3. People are going to laugh when they watch this and they know anything about motorcycles. She was my first one because I'd never ridden before. And I wanted something that I wasn't going to kill myself with.
Yeah.
And then after a while, 4 years, I got bored of her, which most people get bored of those bikes in like 6 months. But I don't have time to ride all the time. So I bought a new one because I wanted a little bit more zep. And then I went back and I was like, well, I should sell this other bike. Like, I never want to ride her because I always want to ride the faster one. And then I took her out for a ride right before we came out here, and it was just so enjoyable. She's so light and nimble and fun. You're not, like, scared for your life.
Yeah.
So-
Sometimes you need just like a joyride.
I'm probably not going to sell her.
Yeah. Why? I mean, more bikes better. She's gonna be the crazy bike lady instead of the crazy cat lady.
Or the crazy cat lady.
Oh my gosh.
I love cats.
Man, this has been so good. Thank you for this interview, ma'am.
Oh my gosh.
No, but seriously, like, I asked her, it's funny, we tried to do this last deployment, but we were both so dog tired, and I was just like, I can't even think right now. So I'm really glad that we were allowed this opportunity again to
Me
like
too.
get this video out there, and I think, you know, people really appreciate different perspectives, because when I was going through, I never found anything like this on YouTube.
Yeah.
So, yeah. If y'all have any questions, like, reach out, and I'm sure she would love to answer anything. But, yeah, I think we're just going to wrap this up. Once again, I'm Shae Taylor. This is Lieutenant Perrin Storch, and I will catch you guys later. A cover picture.
Oh, what do we do for it?
Smile.
Or my left-right thing, because I don't know my left and my right.
What is that?
Left and right.
Is that what you guys, you don't know your left and right? You don't? You don't?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you just know port and starboard?
No. I have to think about that one.
This doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I know it's an L.
That's the only way I know. I'm like, this is an L. This is the like. It's better for me when they're like turn heading 210, because then I can just look at the thing and I'm like, okay, this way. But if they're like turn right 210, I'm like, right.
That's awesome.
No, it's terrible.
I can still count on my fingers. So
I count on
it's
my
fine.
fingers all the time.
And my toes.
The Effies were laughing at me the other day because we were looking at gas after we dropped down low, and I was like,
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense in my head. I feel like, are you a kinesthetic learner? You have to like see something and like do it to learn it.
mm-hmm.
Me too. And that's normal for people like us.
No.
We're just smarter.
No.
We're smarter because if we like actually do something, then it sticks. But if you're gonna tell me how to do something, like I'm gonna not listen to you.
Oh my gosh, when you play a new board game and people like read the directions,
Oh
that's
my
the worst.
God.
I'm like, can
we just
move
try?
on?
Trial by fire.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I just tone out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge board game person. Like Settlers of Catan, have you played
I
that?
hate that game.
Do you
I
really?
hate it.
Why?
I don't. It's just like, it hurts my feelings.
Are you serious? Miss Badass Perrin Storch.
It's like I'm just trying to build a road, my dude. Don't get in my way. And then somebody's like, my resources. And you're like, oh, I see how it is.
I'm guessing you've never won.
No.
Okay. We got a little bit of ego there.
Maybe it feels nice if you win, but I wouldn't know.
Oh my gosh. That's the only game I like. Okay, maybe... No, I can't even say Monopoly. It takes too long.
I love Monopoly. I win at Monopoly. I feel like I'm sensing a trend here.
Yep. I can feel it. I can see it. You said it, not me. Can we say EWAC?
Yeah.
Can we say what it is? Okay.
I hope it doesn't sound like stuck up.
No. Are you kidding? You're the most humble pilot I know. Like, seriously.
Okay.
Like, I just put it on the interwebs, and this is gonna help a lot of people.
Think so?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely gonna help a lot of people.